Hey, davidtswood here, and welcome to My Extra Mile, and welcome to Paros, Greece. The show today is a beautiful show. This couple are really an extraordinary couple. They live together, they work together, they build a home-based business together, they work out together, and they really talk about what it's taken them, their extraordinary journey to create a remarkable relationship. You know what to do. If you get involved with the conversation, share this with your friends, and enjoy the incredible Anna and Morgan Richards. And we'll definitely see you on the other side. So Anna and Morgs, so great to have you. We've had just a great conversation already. What to do a second show, and I always like to ask someone, where do you think we should go in our shortest show, something that you love to talk about? And what came out of your mouth was life together. And I thought, I have a relationship expert I bring on. We've done quite a few relationship shows. So this is great because you've been together how long?
15 years.
15 years, but you're what, 37 and 35?
Yeah, 36.
David!
Oh, you shouldn't.
36, 32.
30. Oh, she's lying. Are you 32?
I'm 32.
She's 32.
Oh, okay, I thought you were lying. No, okay, 32. I apologize. Okay, all right. So, but 15 years, and you've talk about that. When you say life together, you've said you've really sort of understood, and you have your own podcast where I know a lot of the shows you've talked about is this, and you kind of tag team, and you have this wonderful, intelligent, funny, kind of crazy. So it's kind of a mix. I like that. I love the range of it because it isn't intelligent in some ways, but crazy and sort of unguarded and raw and real in the others. But when you say life together, what does it mean to you?
Oh.
Ooh.
So I think, literally, I think it was a literal meaning, and it is a literal meaning and we know it's so unique, and it's so, it's not for everyone, but we literally do all of life together. So we have business together, we work, at the moment
Together,
as well.
From home.
Together. We work out together. Like, we love to work out together. We travel the world together.
Probably one of the reasons.
Sleep together. No.
Probably one of the reasons why we don't have children yet is because I don't want to go to the gym by myself.
He says this all the time. He says it all the time. He's like, babe, you know that when we have a kid, like, and I'm like, no, there's a creche, babe. Like, but we have life together.
I gotta get. Sorry, just give me a moment here. It's just so funny. One of the reasons I don't want to have kids is because I don't want to go to the gym alone. But
On the list.
But let me ask you a question though. When you talk about that, life together, you do all these things together. Has it always been easy for you two? Or did you struggle? I mean, let's talk about that. Yeah, what was the struggle in the beginning?
Struggling.
Oh my God.
Look, in the beginning, I think because we were so young
and toxic.
And we were in that party phase, and obviously all the things that come along with that and when our relationship first began, I was coming out of a relationship. I didn't want to settle into one.
I was his side chick. Oh no, not side chick. Sorry, I was his weekend chick.
Oh,
I was the weekend rebound chick that stalked him until he gave in.
Basically nagged me until I okay, and you're probably looking at us and going like, how does that even work?
Well, yeah, no. Every guy has an answer in his mind right now.
Yeah, has an answer in his mind right now. No.
Yeah.
But we were toxic. Go there. Like, it's been. I want to say this because you'll speak to this. I know you'll play off this, but I always say we get a lot. People look at us now and go, "Oh my gosh, hashtag couple goals and all this stuff," and we're like, oh my God, first of all, we are not perfect, of course. But second of all, we have been on this super unique journey and because we were young, I think we really were young, but I just have always said that I've always known pretty much from when I first met Morgan that I just was always going to have him in my life. But I think in today's world, and I could be wrong, is Beth the relationship expert?
Yeah. We've done 4 shows together.
Beth.
Yeah.
She's phenomenal, of course.
I'm going to point out, check out Beth's show. Yeah.
Check out, no, seriously, you guys, check out Beth's show. She is phenomenal. But I always say you kind of do it younger, and we failed dismally forward together, and we held each other through the lowest of the lows, but then we've been there sort of navigating the highest of the highs. Or you're older, and I always say now girls look at us and go, so friends my age, if they're still single, go, well, I want a Morgan. And I'm like, well, then know what you want, be whole as a person, because now it's like what we went through, the fights and the uncertainties. And I mean, we had space when I was 23.
Yeah.
23. So we've done it all. Like, we've hated one another, we've loved one another, we've done so much. But
I've spent many a night on the couch. I think I've slept in the car a couple of times.
But we have gotten to this really beautiful stage in our 30s where, I mean, I said to you the other day, we don't even really, I mean, we fight, but we don't fight. We disagree. We'll say some shit. And then we're over it immediately. It's like instant forgiveness. It's like, did you want a coffee, baby? Yep. Awesome. Thank you. Like, it's this beautiful, we've kind of figured it.
A lot of people listening will be like, if they're in a relationship that's, in a bad place, this can sound very foreign. Or if they're starting out, or, they're in euphoria right now and they haven't traveled that sort of, that second year where it starts to sort of, oh, his breath does smell in the mornings. Right? Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Talk to me about, how you found this path where you are able to do all these things together and still, it feels like you still have space in the togetherness, because it doesn't feel confined. When I'm around you both, I don't feel like one's holding the other one close. It feels like a choice to be together. Yet I could be in a bar with both of you and feel like you're both there alone, yet you're together. So talk a little bit about how you got to this place where, your togetherness is something that you realize is quite special.
It's trust. It's just unconditional trust. For me, it's,
because I'll say something else.
You're going to say something else?
But it is that fundamentally.
I trust Anna implicitly with my life. And that's why I think, we can go to a packed room full of people and not have to worry about where one is, what one's doing, who's we're talking to, who's had too much to drink or whatever. Because we know we're just got to come back together. And that's the example. I think that
travel, say it happens when we travel.
Yeah. But I think just that core thing there of just whatever's going on, we always come back together, even if we're fighting or whatever it is, because I know that I can't live without her in my life. She is my number one. She's my most important. And I know that that's the way she feels about me too. And we're a unit ourselves. Like we're a team, we're a unit, we're couples, we're lovers, we're husband and wife. We're all those things.
Your friends.
Yeah.
Besties.
Yeah. But I can't speak for her, but I take all those responsibilities seriously.
Yeah. And I would say trust fundamentally, but I'm like, if you don't even have trust, then you don't have a relationship. But I would say love of selves. And I think that Morgan doesn't, I'm like, I say I'm a self-love ambassador, and I am, and I'm proud of that innately, because that was my journey. I think that was my life's journey to go on with everything I've been through and blah, blah, blah. But I think Morgan, without ever realizing it, has been the pillar of that himself. Like, even at 30 kilos heavier, when I still loved him madly, we probably even had more sex then, because that was early on. But it's like at that stage, he jokes. He's like, babe, I used to look in the mirror and be like, you're killing it. Like, you look really good. And he believed it. So I feel like sincerely, and I think the relationship has become better and better and better when I have learned to trust myself more, and I have learned to love myself more. And I think from that space of unconditional love for myself, that's where this just unconditional love and unconditional trust in myself, which you were like born with that, without it. I don't even know if you still recognize that in yourself, but he has just kind of always had it. And so that was my journey to catch up on, in a way, with that. In, again, hindsight, realizing it, but I think now really just feeling that in ourselves, feeling whole in ourselves, come in together. It's just that it's that magic, it's that trust, it's that respect.
It's funny, Morg, you said all those things about taking those responsibilities of, the wife, so the husband, the lover, the friend, and, when you think about that certainty, that I always say, when a man has swagger, you were 30 pounds heavier, a lot of guys, and you used to joke about it, about, scoring such a hot woman, and right, punching above your pay grade, right? But no, but you've joked about it. I've heard you joke about it, but there's something, talk about that when you, and both of you can talk about it, because a lot of people don't get this part about self-love, and it sounds so woo-woo, right? But there's a confidence and a swagger and a presence and all these things that really are attractive, regardless of how you look on the outside. There's something else that really is. But you also talked about making that person feel like, number one, feeling safe and the importance of safety. But let's go back to that first part about self-love. Where did you get it, Morg? She's saying that you've always had it. Where do you get that sort of, how have you been able to program that mind of yours to, because that's where it starts, is, your thoughts. Have you just always had it, or did you have to work at it?
No, I think I just kind of always, here's the thing, I think a lot of guys, I think the self-love thing is particularly unique to women. And I can't speak for all men because I know men have their own individual and unique struggles, but I don't know. I've always just kind of had confidence in.
He really has.
Yeah. Look, it was a false confidence back then because I weighed 180 kilos, but confidence nonetheless. We can't take that away because I think women in particular, find confident men attractive. I know men who are really good looking, far better looking than me, much better shape, lack confidence, and they tend to struggle to find a meaningful relationship or a good partner, or maybe a partner that they were more attracted to or something like that. It's just and for me, I don't know.
But you've always been certain. Like I remember when
I had big tickets on myself or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Like your dad, I call him Pa, is this wise old. You think he's crazy, but this wise old sage who I think was a beautiful embodiment of it as well. So I think, and even though we've all got daddy didn't love me issues and things like that, but Morg's included. But I think that it was innate for you. It was.
Yeah, I think I had a great childhood. My parents did everything they could, the best they could. So I think I just grew up with good confidence and good self-esteem, and I had good friends I had good friends and bad friends like we all do. But and I don't know. I think it was just something that I was just innate with. But
someone asked us the other day though, I'm getting this a lot more than ever, because I think people are maybe consciously or subconsciously picking up on the fact that Morgan is becoming quite a bit more motivated, and he's finding his voice a lot more in our not even in the union. He's always had the biggest voice, but in our brand. People are saying, we had this big chat the other day. How do you both help the other stay motivated, or how do you help? What if one of you becomes less motivated? And I asked Morgs, I said, because I knew my answer, and I said, what do you think, baby? And he's like, we don't.
If she had to rely on me for motivation, we'd be in trouble, right? And it's like I said, motivation. I think a lot of people, not even just in relationships, are looking for motivation from things external.
Yeah.
I need you to motivate me to go get the things that I want in life.
Or it's for me to love myself, or for me to go through the transformation. Or
yeah, and I think let's just talk, if we just related that back to just purely my own physical transformation. She was a motivating factor, but she wasn't the thing within me that drove me to want to change and transform my body. It was my own desire to change for myself. And if I had to rely on her to show up and to tell me to do all these things that I needed to do in order for me to have that transformation, it would just never would have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think to go back to, the self-love and everything, it's just what we're learning more than ever. And again, hindsight is that I think we are becoming more of our own powerful individual, and learning to, for myself, I am learning to love myself even more unconditionally and trust myself unconditionally, really trust myself unconditionally. That I think together, life together has become, it has even more magic and sweeter. And, you know, you said it, and it's such a beautiful word, but it is. I think we are more grounded. I think, but yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, you know, when you watch that sort of evolution and the fact that, do you say you want to have kids? Is that something you're planning on having?
I might have one.
Yeah.
You got the fur baby right now. You're going to go into that, right? But, you know, someone listening right now and they talk about, you know, sort of finding that place. You know, a lot of couples, they have two different jobs. So they're going away and they're not spending the whole day together. You're working out together. You have this time together, which for some people on the surface would drive them crazy.
Yeah.
What advice? I mean, actually, let me go. There was another question I was going to ask you. You know, this thing where, you know, and I received this from a relationship expert many, many years ago. His name was Satyan Raja. And he used to do this incredible, well, lots of incredible relationship programs. And he said that, you know, your friends always know. And if you really want to know, you know, like, you know, whether you should be with this person, ask your best friends and say, how are we together? You know, because what I look for when I see a great relationship is that authenticity, is that when I'm alone with Morgs, you know, in a back room somewhere, we're just together, that he sounds the same and he behaves the same as you. I mean, he may be a little cruder, but he sounds the same and behaves the same, and the same with you, right? And so I really value that. But, you know, how often do you see a couple and people know that they're not really a fit, and yet, you know, and they keep attracting the same kind of person, kind of thing, right? But how important is that? I mean, if someone's sitting there right now and wants to know how their relationship is, do you agree that they can go to their best friends and say, how are we? How does it feel? How does it look? How does it sound, right?
It depends who the friends are.
I was going to say, I think it depends who the friends are.
Like if your mother-in-law hates your partner or your husband, she's probably not the
friends though. Friends, our family's a bit different. We say, so we do this off of, I would say yes, I think you definitely can. Like I know I could go to PK and I know PK knows she can come to me about anything like that. So PK is someone 100 billion %. Rosebud, Najette, like all those girls, 100%, I think. And I remember back when I was dating him and I was at my worst and he was terrible as well. We were both just shitheads. It was my best friend. It was Najette, my high school best friend of forever, who always saw divinity and impact and love in him. And it was always like, stick at it. Like, you're a fool. Go home. Like, what are you doing here? So I definitely think there's truth to that. But what we say for sure that makes us gel and work, and if couples come to us or people say to us, you know, I feel like this is going on in my relationship, and we're like, well, what are your values?
I was waiting for you to finish.
What are your values? Because ultimately, if your highest value is health and they don't even give a shit about it, then you're probably not gonna work. Like, you're not, and that's okay. It's not good or bad, right or wrong. It's just, you are gonna like just get angry because we have such different beliefs. We do. We still disagree on so much, but we respect one another. We navigate it. It's still beautiful. There's nothing about it in the relationship, but because our values are all the same.
Well, yeah, and your values developed, right? Because obviously, Morg's health wasn't your highest value a few years ago.
Either.
But it's kind of become central in your life, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't for either of us in the beginning, to be fair. And but it was like that. Anna started to change some things, and that was kind of again like a potential fork in the road for our relationship. Is that if I could have kept going the way that I was going, or I could have joined her and gone through this process and grown through it together, and that's I think why we'd stayed together as long as we have, because there's been points in the relationships where each one of us is about to go on a growth journey or something like that. And we've both kind of gone through it together with each other too.
Yeah, but it could have stopped as well.
But the whole thing about just back to the beliefs and values, I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between a belief and a value. So, values like a belief is something like we'll use the examples of religion is a good one. Is the beliefs between say Catholic and Protestant are different, but their values are the same because they both think that, it's wrong to kill people and rob and steal and those sorts of things. So I think if couples can sit down and work out what their values are rather than arguing over the things they believe, that's how you can form a closer bond with your partner and have a better relationship. And I think that's just something that we've kind of always had from the start is, even though there's certain things that we part opinion on, the things that matter most to us, that make us individuals, are things like our values like honesty and integrity and trust, those sorts of things, the things that we value above everything else, are what bind us together.
Yeah. And humor.
I was going to say, I almost said, guys, you're missing one, the big one, because you do laugh a lot. And that's what I find with my girlfriend, Asta. You know, I mean, we laugh. You've heard her laugh. She's got this, you know, wonderfully deep soul laugh, right? Yeah. And one of my highest values is kindness. You know, when I watch people be kind, it's something about it for me that, you know, kind to people in those small little things, you know, just going out of your way to help someone without being asked, and all those I just noticed they're like magnets to me. I think it's a really wonderful place to stay. You know, why do you think some people, you know, this whole idea about, you know, aligning with values, why do you think so many people end up attracting some of the wrong people? I mean, obviously, you know, a lot of people come to you, young couples, and they see your relationship and ask for advice, especially the women, I'm guessing. Do you get the guys come and ask you stuff as well, Morgs? I was going to say, I didn't think so.
No, do you know what?
Bloody Australians, mate.
They want to drink beer and like have Morgs tell them dirty jokes. That's like, and so do I.
He does tell the best jokes. Well,
so do I.
Maybe you and I.
The dirty one. Look, I've got a pretty crude, dark sense of humor, so.
Which I friggin' love. So wait, what was the question?
Well, I was just saying, why do you think it is that, you know, people don't align with their values? You know, what is that thing, and especially with women a lot, wanting a fixed man, so you can see this thing is not really aligned and they want to go after it. Is that just, do you think it comes down to that sort of self-worth, sort of how they see themselves in the mirror?
100%. And we went and had some champagne in the sun yesterday because we could. And I said there was these two men that walked in the bar. It was just super interesting to watch, and tattooed, very alpha, good looking, pulled out, I mean, probably drug lords on the Gold Coast, pulled out the biggest stack of 50s I've ever seen. But I was watching some females around me like get almost enamored by that. And I said to Morgan, I would love to understand the psyche of women. Like, they know that they would be bad for them. They know that it's probably going to end in heartache, but there's still that, like, what do people see in it? But I think it truly does come down to that lack of self-worth, lack of trust in themselves, lack of understanding their own values. I do think that is a huge one. So it might be like, well, I believe he's the one. Yeah, but I believe that Santa Claus is still real, and I'm 32. So, like, you know, he's not kidding. Believe, but you can believe things. So I just think and that's where I just think, if you can love yourself. One of my favorite quotes I only heard within the last year was from Maya Angelou, and she says, "I don't ever trust anyone who says the words 'I love you' who doesn't love themselves." Yeah. And I took that so on board, because I was like, I just so love people and I want them to know that I love them, but I have to love myself so unconditionally first, which will never, I mean, there are days, it's a lifelong journey, but I'm just saying, like, and by the way, like, just to know the difference, I'll say, honey, what's self-love? And he's like, oh, I do it a couple of times a day. Like, so it is not the same. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, and I think sometimes people are looking for that, the perfect, like, what even is perfect? But if you can understand innately that there's that beautiful value alignment, because David, I love hearing that, like the kindness thing. I'm like, yeah. And Asta, I look at Asta, and if there was one word, it's just like light and love and energy and kindness. But imagine then being with someone, not that you ever would, but it's like someone that's not kind and not mean, but just didn't have that kindness in them. It's like, it would never work. It wouldn't, I don't think.
Well, even if they were speaking unkindly, because that's even the same thing for me. In fact, I can't remember where I was out the other day, and someone was talking about someone, and I started to chime in, and I went, whoa, I said, I can't believe we're on the golf course. And I can't believe we're talking about this guy. I said, I got to stop. Sorry, guys. I don't do this. And it was like really catching myself suddenly talking about, because I said, I haven't had this conversation with this guy and I'm not going to do it. And I walked away, and it was just, but I caught myself actually doing it. You know me, I'm really big on not gossiping. So if we want to give someone some homework, because I want to go back to a number of years ago, I remember Tony Robbins he had this thing where he said, go and sit down. And it was really around values, and look at, the things that are non-negotiable for you. and then look at your partner, especially because I was going through a transition and I was looking at, whether this was going to end or not. And it was an important relationship, and just sort of aligning with the things that were non-negotiables for me. And when I put them together, they were kind of like this, right? And that's when I realized that this was going to end, and it ended up becoming the most beautiful ending. And we're really great friends. But what homework? What do you think? What do you think if we set someone a task right now and they just wanted to take a little bit of the magic that you share? What task could we give them to practice or try or attempt to do that you think would really help, and something that maybe you do together?
I think
I'm laughing because I know there's a word in your head that you say.
Anyway, the starting from ground zero, probably reading the book, The 5 Love Languages.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your language?
Actually,
what's your language, Mobs?
Can you get
Dutch?
It's got nothing to do with sex. That's actually a really, really good exam. That's the homework. That 100%, because I think that is how we can fill each other's tanks so fast. And it is that. I would say values. I think that's the bigger, deeper work though. I'd say values. So 2. Can we give 2?
Yeah, no, give 1 each. So he's saying about start with the love languages, which again, understanding your own, but understanding your partner's really, really, really.
And this is acts of service, which I call slavery.
As funny it is. But no, it's true. I always say, I liken it to I could walk in the door, and this is legitimate. I could walk in the door. He's just bought me a box. He has never done this, but there could be Tiffany's on the bench. I walk in the door and he's gives me a big embrace, beautiful, and tells me I'm beautiful and he loves me, words of affirmation, gifts on the table. And I peer over his shoulder and there's dishes in the sink. Oh, I would be like, love for so many of us. I know I was 23 when we read that book, and it did freaking change our relationship because here's his touch. So I know as a wife, keeping the house in order, we have a cleaner, but doing all those things.
I couldn't care if there's dishes in the sink. That's why I
shit.
leave him there all the time.
If I do, walk past him in the kitchen and, touch his back, or if, we're on a podcast, put my hand on his leg, or,
except a moment ago.
I heard him, apparently.
I did legs the other day, and because obviously the gyms have just reopened here, and she put her hand on my leg to readjust herself. It was agony.
And mine is acts of service. So love languages is so big, and then values for sure.
So give them a strategy. So values, what do they do with this? What would you say to go out and do? And is it give them some homework specifically?
Well, work out your partner's values as well, to work out your own, but also get an understanding of what your partner's values are to see if they're aligned, or or maybe you need to reassess some of your own values if you really want to make the relationship work, and really have a good think about what's important to you, especially if your relationship is in turmoil and you're at a sort of a crossroad with it. You're not sure. But
I will say as well, super simple, because this is what we did and still do. The first time I did it, I was 21. And I did it from the Tony Robbins Awaken the Giant Within book. But that's for, people might not have access to that, blah, blah, blah. Dr. Demartini has a free values test on his website. So if you Google Dr. John Demartini values and just spent 5 minutes, both of you doing your values, because what I find is that, and I get a lot of our team leaders to do this, is that they'll go, family's my number one. Family's my number one. And it's not.
Yeah.
It's actually not. And so there's so much misalignment and anger and eruption in their life, because it's my kids are my number. Well, they're not actually. Business is, and that's okay. But if you know that, then you can navigate and work out your life with it. So, but I would say if you are really struggling and you're listening to this and there's triggers because you're like, we're unhappy and we can't, this is ridiculous. And I'd hate to work with my husband and do it because there's just so much upset and hurt at the moment, but you both did your values. And if his or her isn't even willing to do that, then I would unpack that as well.
I would also say coming along to one of your events, doing the color coding thing, putting people, working out what your traits are and things like that as well. Probably
This is a lot though. We want to stick with 2.
Yeah. That's the homework.
Yeah.
Do the
Well,
colors
no,
code
they're
test.
actually really perfect. And, I want to thank you for being on the show. Again, I know we're going to do lots of these. I know you've got your podcast. I'm looking forward to coming back on there. We should give that a little plug. We plugged it in the last show. I was on their podcast, which actually launched today. So you'll be able to find it there. But it's really not about me. It's about how they are together. It's just a beautiful co-hosting from this sort of well of connectivity and aligned values and humor. So I think that you two are incredible hosts. The podcast is, and where do they find it?
It's called the Anything Goes podcast with Anna and Morgan Richards. You can find it on iTunes, Spotify, and the video podcasts are on YouTube too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, you see me glare at him across the table when he says outlandish shit. I'm like,
yes. And he does. But it actually came one of the last things you did during the whole COVID thing, you had this happy news thing you did. Was it once a week, the news channel? And I think, is that the sort of the birth of the podcast? Is that where you started to realize? Yeah, I thought so. That was that was so fun, by the way.
You'll find all those on the YouTube channel too. We uploaded them there as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. So everyone, just, it's called My Extra Mile. First of all, thank you, you two. Appreciate it so much.
Stay there. We love you.
It's called My Extra Mile. It's those incremental, those tiny little steps. You've got 2 great pieces of homework. If you have read the love languages, but you can't recite them and can't tell exactly what your partner's love languages are, then it's time to reread it. And aligning those values, I think, is such a great piece of homework and a real map, a very, very easy way to know, whether you're in alignment with someone or not. If there's a lot of struggles, there's a great chance those values aren't aligned. So great feedback. Remember, it's those little tiny incremental 1% things we can do every single day that make our lives extraordinary. So we'll definitely see you on the other side.